There are times that I may slip up, won't always get it right. Guarantee I'll be on top when it's game, set, life. Get up and show up, don't ever lose your fight. You watching me from the couch, at least I say I tried. A long time ago, someone said this stuck with me. Passion without action will only remain a dream. Keep positive, motivated people on your team, cause other negativity can kill your self-esteem. Believing is powerful, but sadly so is doubt. So you can choose which way you wanna go, which route. The mind that controls the body can beat anybody, and gotta be all in, don't treat your dreams like a hobby. And if you practice on your day off, won't have an off day. Talent alone won't get you there, still got a long way. Gotta take big risks and big steps to strive. Wanna be the winner when it's game, set, live. Whoa.
Whoa is the word here at SoFi Stadium, the best stadium ever built here in Los Angeles, Inglewood, California, with the greatest tennis coach ever built, Rick Macci, the legendary Hall of Fame tennis coach. Welcome, my friend, to our show, Game, Set, Life.
No, it's awesome. And, hey, before we dive in, I got to tell this story. I jumped off the court and I was in the parking lot. We have a $25,000 pro tournament going on now. And a parent stopped me with his daughter and he goes, Rick, can you give some advice to my daughter to make her mentally stronger? And I go, well, I can expedite the learning curve, but I don't know if I can do it in like 5 minutes here in the parking lot. But how about this story? Okay, it's 1980, Willingsboro, New Jersey, 4th of July, 11 o'clock. Okay, just like yesterday, I'm playing in the finals of a men's open. The winner gets $1,000. Okay, so it's the 4th of July. There's 400 motorcycles, choppers that start going down Main Street. There's boats, there's parade, dancing cheerleaders. There's all kinds of chaos, and we start the match. Okay, the guy didn't want to play, Dave, because it was just so loud. We were 3 feet from Main Street. The court's backed right up to Main Street. And because of my mental toughness training with the great Dr. James Lair, I flipped it in my mind. Okay. We were about an even match. The moral of the story, I won 6-0, 6-1. After the match, this guy's out of control, broke all his rackets, threw the water jug over the fence. The media interviewed him. He said, this tournament's a joke. I'm never coming back again. They should have canceled the tournament. This parade was out of control. There was noise for 2 hours straight. It was like crazy thing that happened. The media came up to me. They go, your opponent got way out of control. What'd you think of the parade? And I said, what parade?
Nice.
So I never had so many motorcycles as my best friend, cheerleaders, and floats. I flipped it in my mind, made it my best friend. It is what it is. I took a negative, turned it into a positive. We were an even match. And I drilled the guy. So that was the lesson. And the dad's going, do you hear that? You hear that? You're going to have problems. How you deal with it and make it your best friend. That's the leader in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I would love to see you play tennis. I just got back from Mardi Gras. There was plenty of parades, bands, cheerleaders, and floats, and a lot of people who probably have overserved themselves as well. But once you get that down, you can do anything that you want. Now, you know, there's a lot of tennis content out there. Obviously, a lot of people have seen the movie King Richard. I now know there's a Netflix documentary series called Breaking Point. And I was looking over my wife's shoulder as she was watching the series. And it was really interesting because, you know, the venues, and you can see this venue behind me. I'm not sure a lot of people that are not in the tennis community realize the size, scope, and scale of tennis championship venues around the world. How has that changed? The number of courts, the types of facilities. And one of the things I noticed, they were having the players, after they were done playing, ride a bike. A lot of the players, they'd have them ride a bike after they were done playing. You know, what are some of those changes in the actual facilities over the last 30 years?
Yeah, well, first off, because the athletes are bigger, stronger, faster, and the technology in every sport, David, just more physical. All the facilities are one-stop shopping. They have bikes, they have gym. I mean, it's a whole smorgasbord of stuff to cool down, to warm up. It's changed dramatically. Where before, back in the day, you might show up with your coach and just hit some balls and let's get it on. Now it's a whole thing: ice bath, whirlpool, massage. I mean, it's one-stop shopping because these are elite athletes, but it's pretty much like that with every tournament. And you know how competition is. Competition breeds competition. You got to outdo the next guy, the bigger scoreboard, more seats. So it's like, it's just this arms race for everybody. And the winner in the whole thing is the players, and they're getting the ultimate service.
And they are. And yet, with all the technology and all the hype and all the facilities and all the care and all the people in the number of courts, all these things have changed over the years. I always think it's interesting that a lot of times what gets in the way of a victory seems to be the tennis player themselves, how one bad call or perceived bad call can set some players off. I have a thing about football, and my passion lies within that sport, is that if I was a head coach in the NFL or a coach in tennis, I would say, you got to be able to win with injury and with bad calls. And that just should be a standard. Some injuries, obviously in tennis, there's only one player, but in football, you got to be able to play with some of your players hurt, meaning they can't play. Where is your mindset when it comes to bad calls, let alone where to draw the line with an injury? Because obviously sometimes is it better not to go than to lose with an injury?
Yeah, first off, I love the question. That's like the key factor with a lot of players. I always tell them, I want you to be good when things are going bad. Anybody can be good when things are going good. Okay. And that's why I like to create distractions. I like people to play against other people that cheat. I like people I really do.
I like that.
Richard Williams used to say, Rick, get me the biggest cheater in the academy. And I would say, hey, Richard, take your pick. I mean, there's a lot to choose from. Everybody makes bad calls, whether on purpose or not. He goes, so this is the real world, and people don't live in the real world. They want to kind of sugarcoat things. See, I like it when it's really, really windy, or it's really, really hot, or it's cold. I like distractions. I like when the maintenance guy is mowing the grass. I like it when the mowers, where like in golf, everything has to be silent and all that stuff. I like
except for waste management.
There you go.
That's a madhouse.
This is how you get mentally stronger. But no, that's a big thing. And in my opinion, who can manage that at the highest level? Forget about the interception. Forget I just fumbled the ball. Forget I missed the tackle. We don't know what's really going through their head, but the short memory and who can move on and still keep that belief. And this is like life and sports. We both know that. You just got to keep going. But it's a skill and it's an art. And the more you buy into it, it just happens naturally.
And the technology has changed over the years, as you said, especially in the player care, as well as in the training component. One of the things that's interesting about tennis and baseball is that we actually have technology today that could call a strike perfectly, consistently, that could call a ball on in or out. They can also tell you if it hit the net or not. There's plenty of technology out there. What's your opinion of integrating some of these technologies so that there isn't any bad calls?
No, I think it's great. I mean, the human eye, everybody likes the human element. I get that. But I think with video in all sports, it's become a staple. Let's try to get it right the best we can. And I think with tennis, the ball system, some of these serves are 150 miles an hour. It's bang, it's on you in milliseconds. You can't call it. You got to have electronic stuff going on. So I think it's great. And people aren't going to argue as much with a machine as they are with me and you, another human. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of puts that. But then again, people kind of like McEnroe back in the day. You can't be serious. They kind of like that part of it. But at the end of the day, the technology is here to stay, and it's just going to get better and better.
Okay, another question I've been dying to ask you. So what's harder to do? Hit a major league fastball, hit a 150-mile-an-hour serve back, or hit a golf ball?
Well, it depends on the person. You know what I'm saying? But I think, once again, if you practice, I think the golf ball would be the easiest because it's stationary. Okay. I think the baseball, in my opinion, even I haven't played since Little League, that would be the hardest, because I would probably want to bail out, so I didn't have to visit the dentist the next day. I'd kind of bail. Where the serve, you could stand all the way back to the fence and it would slow down a little bit. So I think to get it back, the serve would be a little easier than some guy throwing 100 mile. That would be just so scary to a lot of people. But I think it's your mindset. I think it's going to be hard to flip it.
Right? Like in tennis, you can adjust where you stand. Yeah. You can move a lot more where you're stuck in a batter's box, and the curveball and the ball's a lot harder, obviously, as well. So I will tell you, just as experience as a golfer, that more people are consistent in hitting a tennis ball back or hitting a baseball than they are hitting a golf ball that's just sitting there still on a tee.
Really?
As far as consistency goes, I think fear, you nailed it when it comes to fear. That's for sure. Now, lessons for the week. I learn a lot of lessons because I'm blessed to be around a lot of people that know a lot more than I do. And I heard a great lesson that I want to share, and I was hoping that maybe you could share one of yours that you learned this week. I love this saying. It was, if you're not moving, you can't change direction. And
That's a good one.
Right. So if you're not moving, you're just in that place. You can't change direction. Was there a lesson that stood out or a quote that stood out for you this week?
Well, yeah, it's kind of one of my own. When I see someone off balance, what I like to tell the person I'm coaching, when they're off balance, I want them to put this in their head. When they're stretching, you're fetching. Okay. It's almost like a dog, because when they're off balance, they're probably going to hit short. So when they're stretching, you're fetching, you're already running, good thing's going to happen. So I put these little nuggets in people's heads. David, it's amazing how people come back. They don't remember anything except the one-liners, because it's bang, it's simple, but it's so powerful. And that's how people learn, through powerful one-line gold nuggets. And they can use that in, tennis, golf, football, baseball, or just the game of life.
And before we bring Tim Storey on in the next minute, I know he's on here, who's a legend, by the way, just like you. One of the other difficult things, you have these one-liners. We have, my saying of what's simple to do, unfortunately, simple not to do. How many times does it take on average for you to teach a lesson? It's been my experience. Nobody picks up the lesson the first time around. Is there a certain average number that you have to hammer in the lesson before somebody actually believes it or executes on that lesson?
Well, I wish it was one and done, and then we'd all have a lot more fun in the sun. But listen, no way, Jose. Listen, I might have had to tell someone 8,000 times. But you know what? That's the art of coaching. And I told you about the woodpecker approach. You just keep pecking until they get it. You don't give up. And so, no, everybody's a little different. Some can absorb. But when I lead the witness and then they come back with the answer, bang, I know they got it. You know what I'm saying? So there's no blueprint like 5 or 10 or whatever. It depends on the age. It depends on the level. Okay. But I just keep going until I know they got it. Then I move on to the next subject.
And who was one of the fastest learners that you've coached, since you've coached so many champions?
Well, it was probably a parent. It'd probably be Richard Williams. Okay.
Really?
Believe it or not. Oh, no question about it. Because he would video every word and he would repeat every little thing. Because I wasn't only teaching Venus and Serena, I was teaching him. And so as a result, to me, that's a smart guy, because he was going home that night and regurgitating and teeing it up however. And when you got that team approach, trying to push greatness into someone, hey, the more hands on deck, the better.
And did he actually have a written out plan for his daughters like the movie indicated?
Yeah, he actually did. I think the pages kind of deviated, but he said the exact same thing in 1991, my academy, to Chris Mortensen on ESPN. He said the exact same thing. He saw some girl win a tennis tournament. She won 40 grand. She made 52,000 as a security guard. He goes, I'm in the wrong business. We got to make a few new kids. Now, it's not that simple. You better hit the genetic jackpot. But the movie was so accurate. David, it kind of freaked me out. It was so exactly like it really happened. There was a few things that were a little exaggerated, but everything was spot on. But yeah, he had a plan.
And did it tempt you to grow your mustache back?
I got it in the drawer right here by the computer. I put it on if I need it. But I told you before, Bernthal's mustache, that looked like a shrubbery. Mine was a little piece of astroturf, and it took me 12 years to grow that thing. Okay. But no, the mustache is history.
And how much time, I know that Cameron Crowe followed Lee Steinberg around for almost a year in order to pick up the nuances that he made, an incredible movie called Jerry Maguire about. How much time did you have to spend in being shadowed or interviewed for, the realistic perpetuation or representation of you?
First off, great question. I wasn't really consulted on the movie, but I did talk to Bernthal many times. Richard had more video than anybody. All right. When they left, when I brought them from Compton to Florida, it's pretty much my book, Macci Magic. They took that whole thing of my book, the next Michael Jordan, the motorhome. They took all that kind of from the book, and he saw everything on YouTube and Instagram. So he really studied everything. So now listen, he did a great job. I didn't know I was that fired up, but what everybody says, Rick, you are that fired up. So he did a great job.
Yeah, I would have to agree. You are that fired up. You get fired up every Tuesday, which hopefully is still your favorite day. I know you and we love every day, but I have a special relationship with Tuesdays now that I get to see you. You're my lunchtime guest and friend, and we have so many big things on our agenda, and more people are coming into the community. And the bigger the community, the bigger the opportunity. And speaking of that, are we ready, Nick, for our dear friend? Nope, one more minute. Okay, good. Question from you. I know technology is not always our friend when it comes to these shows. So, Rick, do you have a question for me? Anything on mentorship, entrepreneurship?
I actually do. Mindset? I have like 700 questions, but I don't want to keep peppering you every day at 4 a.m. because I know your wife's going, who's this guy texting you all the time? But how did you transition from high-profile sports agent to kind of what you're doing now? Because obviously you felt you had a gift and you wanted to share it with more than just, a limited number of people. How did that transition take place?
Well, first of all, it took a lot of time, right? I think understanding when I was a sports agent that you just don't change overnight. And so I started to put building blocks in place. And the first step for me was to take inventory of my own skills, my own knowledge of not only what I have learned, but who I know, and then also my desires. And the transition from a small transition, it really was, from running Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment, which is a notable sports agency, into more of the entrepreneurial marketing, branding side with Warren Moon, who was actually a partner of mine at Lee's. So the first step was to transition into marketing and branding, which was a smaller step. And then through that entrepreneurial journey of 12 years with the Hall of Fame quarterback, then that made it more natural as I learned how to represent someone, to how to brand them, market, endorsement, then to be able to say, wait a second, the world has changed with this digital format, and through some encouragement of others, maybe I should start branding myself. Like you, I'd written a book, I'd written several books, and I did some speaking, but, all of the skills, knowledge, and desire aggregated into being able to say, wait a second, if I've done this for the biggest names in sports, why can't I do that for myself now that we have the community, a digital community? And so that's worked out really well. And it starts, crawl before you walk, before you run. I think the biggest lesson in transition was, unlike when I was in my 20s, maybe you were the same way, I had no expectation of it happening overnight. I wasn't attached my emotions to an outcome. I literally told a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, who inspired me to build my own brand as an entrepreneur. I told him, I said, look, what I'm looking for in year one is 2 ambassadors. I just want 2 people after a year that will tell everyone, hey, you should read his books, hire him to speak, have him as a coach. if those two people could get me two people a year, then I know how exponentiality and compounding it works, right? If I could just get two people to get me two people, I was 50 years old when I really leaned into my own brand. So by the time I'm 70, I'm also a math person like you. By the time I'm 70, if I can get two people to tell two people, to engage with me at that level, I'll have 2 million people getting me 2 million people when I'm 70. That'll make me one of the most popular 70-year-olds in the world with 2 million ambassadors. They'll be begging for more TV shows with Rick Macci and David Meltzer, more movies with Rick Macci and David Meltzer. They won't get enough of the M&M crew. Game Set Life will be the biggest show in digital and whatever virtual spheres exist, in 15 years from now. So it was really an aggregation of lessons, but for me, detaching my emotions from an outcome, taking inventory of my skills, my knowledge, and my desire, and working for there. I know Tim Storey's having a little bit of technical difficulties as well.
David, let me ask, one of the things that's interesting. Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
It's interesting. When we came up with the title of the show, we said Game Set Life.
Hey. Oh, sorry.
We said Game Set Life because obviously there's a tennis component, but it could actually have been Game Mindset Life. So
true.
Because this is more about life. It's not about tennis. Tennis is what I've always done and will continue to do, but it's much bigger than that. It's more of a life coach, and I don't change strokes, I change lives, and that's always been the cornerstone of my teaching. So we could even say Game Mindset Life. We're still getting the tennis aspect, but it's more the mindset. And everybody that comes on here, we have all these common threads.
And to the matter, it's Game Mindset Life. How much do you think life is like a game? Obviously, you and I have been around sport, around game, not taking ourselves seriously, but competing at our best, at our highest level. How do you equate life and the game of life?
Yeah, no, I tell everybody, it's so much of a game within a game within a game. I mean, you can't look at things black and white. There's going to be gray in everything. And when you can look at it the first thing, games are supposed to be fun. And I think anything that you do, is fun. Even a brain surgeon, he thinks it's fun. Now, maybe the guy on the table doesn't think it's too much fun, that's getting operated on. But the underlying factor, David, has to be fun. But people think fun is like laughing and messing around. No, it's enjoyment. It's enjoyment. So at the end of the day, to me, that's such a big key to even the way I coach and teach. When even they asked Bernthal, well, everybody said, Rick was smart and they had so much fun and stuff like that. But it's tough fun. It's a challenging fun. It's motivational fun. It's a game within a game, always a bet, trying to push limits and push buttons. As I tell people, if you don't challenge your limits, you should at least limit your challenges. So at the end of the day, it's very important, the underlying factor, and no matter what you do, you got to enjoy it, and it has to be fun.
Well, speaking of fun, we're about to have a real lot of fun because we have one of my favorite people on earth, and he's always gracious with his time and, of course, his own mindset. He's helped more people than you and I combined, which I take pride in how many people I've helped, and I'm I admire how many people in your life as well. But this guy, add us together, you cannot believe how many people he's impacting today and has in the past. Welcome to Game Set Life, my dear friend, the incredible Tim Storey.
But what an all-star team you got going on today, guys.
Not bad.
Tim, go ahead, David.
I was gonna say I had to do it at the big stadium with the big players, so there was no doubt. Anyway, we always start with Rick Macci setting the stage. He has one of the greatest intros prepared. So Tim Storey, Rick Macci,
welcome to the show. It's an honor. Listen, I always try to find common threads, even though we all do different things. There's so many common threads, And let me start with number one. Venus and Serena grew up in Compton with an amazing story. You also grew up in Compton, but
Yes.
you're an original story. So that's number one. That's number one. You idolized Billy D. Williams for his smooth style and demeanor. And when I taught Serena a smooth style, trust me, she was meaner. Okay. So there's number two. Number three, you got to really pay attention to this one. It's a little trickier. We're just a few hardworking Buckeyes from Ohio who wrote books. You visit Ojai, you write books, made a few bucks. People read with their eyes. So that's number three. But the leader in the clubhouse, the final common thread, okay, you're a life coach, a speaker, and a pastor, okay? David's a life coach, speaker, and he shows people greener pastures. And when I taught the Williams sisters, the game plan was to take you out to the pasture. So now that we got that out of the way, welcome, Game Set Life. You're the leader in the clubhouse. I'm turning it over to Dave.
Yeah, Tim, man, I am so blessed to have both of you. They always say if you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I'm definitely in the right room. I watched a few people consistently, and Tim Storey is one of those people that I learn from on a daily basis. And his understanding of mindset and mentality, and the way that I describe it is Tim Storey has empowered me to give a different meaning to my life. And that's a very important thing, the meaning that we give our lives. And if we can change someone's meaning, we can change their life. And I just want to thank up front Tim Storey for giving me a different meaning to my life and creating miracles in my life by giving that meaning to me. How important is it, Tim, in the miracle mentality to help people give a meaning aligned with where they think they want to be?
Number one, thank you both for that introduction. Rick, that was creative.
Yeah.
You deserve it. No, listen, I read your bio, man. You're the best.
And I got to say this about our friend David Meltzer. I was in the Philadelphia airport just 30 days ago, and I was sitting down at the bar area eating a salad with salmon on it. And there were 3 Reach TVs behind me. And David's show was on, but he was on 3 giant screens in this restaurant. And I was so proud of my friend because he's in 90 airports around the world. I wanted to kiss all 3 screens.
Thank you.
So, David, you are everywhere at one time. And Rick, what you did with the Williams sisters is amongst us as African-American people who came from setbacks to come back. We applaud you, and I mean that with my whole heart. And so appreciate your work and what you're continuing to do. All right, so David, I'll answer your question, okay? I feel that so many people get caught up in what I call the mundane, the messy, and the madness, and they miss the miracles. When we were kids, we lived in the miracle mentality. Even if you didn't have much money, you found a way to do stuff that was miraculous. If you didn't have enough money to buy something or go somewhere, we created games in our neighborhood. Isn't that true, guys?
Absolutely.
And so what I have found is that so many people got caught up in the mundane, the regular, the status quo, the messy, the disheveled, the madness, the chaotic, and they're missing the miracles that are right there. So every single day I teach people how to pay attention to all the miracles that are already there. They're already present. They're already around us.
No, well put. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was going to say, and within focusing in on what we don't want, as you look at the mundane, we don't want mundane. We don't want messy. We don't want mad, right? We want certain things, but so many people they limit themselves as if they were born into these things. And therefore, every chance they get to extend their own experiences beyond what other people think. what's missing, what they don't have. What can we use as a practice in order to facilitate what we had when we were young, which is the ability to see past where we are and pursue, I want to be a professional blank. I want to be a president. These are the things that 5 and 6 years olds, they talk about, and they don't allow themselves to say, well, they said I can't do it, or, this is missing, or this is what we don't have. Instead, they pursue their potential. What can we do today to help people regain the miracle mentality?
I think the power of observation is so amazing. The fact that you have my stadium behind you does something to me. It makes everything grand. It makes everything big. When I was in Compton, California, and it was 3rd grade, and we had rainy day schedule. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And the teachers would keep us in. Well, my teacher, Miss Sullivan, she started showing these pictures of Europe, you guys. And one of them she showed was a place called the Eiffel Tower. But these slides were going so fast. We had slides back in the day. The slides were going so fast. And I said, Mrs. Sullivan, I said, can you show that other one again? Which was the Eiffel Tower. And one of the kids next to me teased and said, oh, Timmy, you're never going to go there. And I thought to myself, oh, Timmy is going to see that big old thing they call the Eiffel Tower. So I remember the first time I saw it in person, you guys, I was 22. I was already like life coaching people and speaking like as a missionary in churches. And I went there like on this missions job to France. And I went to the Eiffel Tower. And man, when I saw that big old thing, I got so emotional. But it was observation of that rainy day schedule and seeing the Eiffel Tower that said, this is what I would like to do. I want to go see it.
That's awesome. I have a question. Did you call that guy that you knew in 3rd grade and said, I'm here, buddy. I'm right and you're wrong. Okay. No, I know you wouldn't go there, but I want to back the truck up. When you got out of high school, you were speaking to 85,000 people at once. The first question I have, why not 86,000? No, I'm just kidding. Well, that's mind boggling. Can you share that with everybody that's watching? That's amazing.
I really feel like my story is a Forrest Gump story because I was in seminary and a guy that was like the John Maxwell of his day, he invited me to come overseas with him. First of all, to Nigeria. So I was 20 when I spoke to 13,000 in Nigeria. And then I went to Surabaya, Indonesia, and spoke to 32,000 people. And then I went to the Philippines and spoke to 38,000 Catholics. And then it just kept going and going and going and going. And by the time I was 27 is when I spoke to 85,000 people based on the John Maxwell of his day. And so that was because somebody cared about me. Same thing in Beverly Hills. It was Lee Iacocca who said, you teach me about faith and I'll teach you about business. I was 26 years of age. It was Quincy Jones when I was 27 said, Tim, I got you. I'm going to back you up. It was Quincy who called Oprah 9 times. Oprah said, I was getting tired of hearing your name. Quincy Jones called Oprah 9 times and said, you've not met anybody like this kid. We got to put him on. And so I've been a little bit of a Forrest Gump, and I'm really thankful for it.
And you speak of faith, and unlike me, you were a faith-based speaker early on in your career. And for me, it's the most powerful thing in my life. But it took me a little, I'm not as smart as, like I said, you guys. So it took me a little bit longer to catch on. And for me, there's a foundation of faith. And when I talk about faith, I try to speak of it in a non-religious, non-philosophical, theoretical, or even a spiritual realm. I try to simplify things for people. So this, what I call system of unified, abundant, infinite thought that we all belong to, really propels, protects, and promotes us. And that's what created for me the basis. And you were one of the people that, reading your books and listening to you, I was able to get a good grip on the fact that why not just, believe there's something bigger than me, an omniscient, all powerful, all knowing source, whatever you want to define it as. But that source of omniscient, all powerful, all knowing source, it has to love me more than my mom. And if I know that no matter how many setbacks, failures, mistakes, lost matches, lost money, pain, any struggle that exists in my life every single day, that my whole life would change with faith, that I'm being protected and promoted by something that powerful that loved me that much. Do you, through all the years of speaking with faith and teaching people about faith, do you have a simple foundational explanation that can help people like me that may be living, as I told my mom, I'll never forget, I might break up crying right now. I said to my mom when I lost everything, I said, Mom, my mom's very religious. I said, I don't believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me and she said, son, you believe in God, you believe in the wrong God. And it hits me today because it set me into a path. And I'm not going to miss the opportunity of having Tim Storey on here with another mentor of mine, Rick Macy, without you helping me to empower more people by explaining maybe simply how we can empower people with the same paradigm shift that I had of faith in a simple term that's inclusive of everyone.
I love what you're saying. And when I watch you speak, you are light. When you're speaking, you are light. And part of that reason is you're made in the image of God. And I always say this, that an utmost God did not create almost children. And so when David Meltzer takes the stage, you are light because you're made in his image. But we're made in his image and his likeness. But I do believe this, that as we learn to decrease and let God increase, even more light begins to come through us. It's almost like a 30-watt light bulb, or 40 or 50, that the more I allowed myself to decrease with my own ego and let God increase in me, it's like my light began to manifest stronger and more divine doors begin to open. I personally believe, Dave, that one reason that you are becoming so worldwide, and I was just with Grant Cardone at 10X and kept hearing your name over and over and over again, where people were saying, oh, I saw you with Dave Meltzer or Dave Meltzer. I'm telling you, no less than 10 times, okay? And you weren't even there. So how do we increase this faith? I believe that for all three of us that are here, that God tagged us. It's like the game, Rick, tag, you're it. When Rick was a child, God tagged him and said, you're it, buddy.
Wait, speaking of tag, when we played tag at the academy, I got to say this, and this is true. Serena played with a closed fist. I said, whoa, Serena, no, we got to keep the hand open. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to get that in there. And when I told her that at the after party, she was crying. It was like epic. But go ahead.
Yes, but life tagged Rick, life tagged David Meltzer, life tagged Tim Storey. And so I believe that God tagged us and put his little special boom on us. And so I wanted to find out more about this God who tagged me, because it was in the 6th grade when my teacher said, Timmy Storey, can you stay after class? And I said, yes. And Mr. Probert, who was a white teacher teaching in a black neighborhood, said to me, little Timmy Storey, he said, you are brilliant. He said, and life is going to use you to touch so many people. He said that about me in the 6th grade. So I wanted to touch a God that had tagged me. So that was my looking for God early on in life.
Well, first off, I love that teacher. And David, we've talked about this, the power of motivating others and believing in a child can change their life. They remember those gold nuggets. So that teacher, I love the guy. So that's amazing.
And I love the fact that, Rick, you have been that white guy in the inner city that has inspired so many people with this idea of a unified system of thought, this unified system of love, of unity, that we can empower people with that light. Rick, maybe you can land the plane with a question about how, either through an experience of yours or Tim's, we're able to cross some segregation or separateness that exists and barriers that, two inner city girls, and especially Richard Williams, somehow had faith in you driving into, Inglewood and moving them out to Florida. Is there something that comes to mind that can help us all understand the unity, that can see beyond the color that our epidermis is?
Well, first off, if your heart's in the right place, okay, I just looked at him as two little girls, like my own daughter, and he was my best friend. I didn't look at it any other way. If the rest of the world did, that's their problem. Okay, I just looked at it like that. Okay, I kept my eye on the ball. Nothing was going to stop us because I knew I had two people that the mom and dad hit the genetic jackpot. We kept our eye on the ball and outworked the competition. They could change the game and become number one. So I didn't look at it like that ever. And I don't to this day. That's just the way I am. Okay. If other people are different, that's their problem. It was about those two little girls. It wasn't about Richard Williams or Rick Macci. It was about those two little girls. And when you can laser focus like that, good things are in the oven that's going to come out.
And Tim, what do you think it is that, at such a young age, people saw in you, or even in your 20s, for someone like Quincy to call Oprah 9 times and
9 times,
which that's not just seeing something, that's a calling that, I'm in a position, or Rick's in a position, or Quincy was in a position to go ahead and elevate somebody else, to elevate ourselves. That it definitely was a calling. You've had callings with other people I know that you've elevated. What do you think the difference is between seeing something in somebody, but then taking the next step and having a calling where, like Rick Macci, begs, borrows, and steals to go, make sure that the Williams sisters are what their potential is? What do you think that difference is?
I think you both are going to like this. There's a difference between a burden and a mandate. A burden is that I see somebody and I have a burden for them, and I say, I think I might want to help them, but if I can't find them on the phone, then maybe I lose interest. A mandate is you have been commissioned to help that person. I believe that God doesn't just give a burden, he gives a mandate. Quincy Jones cried one day and he said, "Why did I take you in that way? Why did I know that you were it? Why did I put so much time in?" And I said, "Quincy, do you think it could have been God?" And he started crying. He says, "It was God." So for Quincy Jones and for so many people, it was not just a burden to help little Timmy Storey from Compton. It was a mandate, because all three of us were commissioned to change millions of people's lives. We are changing millions of people's lives. It was a mandate.
On that note, there's no more that can be said. If you want to read, write, or listen to the right story, read, write, and listen with Tim Storey. No pun intended. I could listen all day long, my friend. I can't wait to do more with you. Whatever TV show, podcast, content, all you got to do is ask. And most importantly, I would love to see you in person very soon. Thank you for taking your time and sharing and empowering your message to so many people. You're changing more lives than we can even imagine. And I know Rick Macci and I are certainly appreciative of your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. All right, man. We went overtime, but it was well worth it. I just want to finish up real quick. Do you have a takeaway for the day from our conversation with Tim? What would be the one thing you'd like to pull from that?
Yeah, there's things out there much bigger than yourself. And if you can tap into that, Okay. I think it's so powerful. So, I mean, I love listening to him, and I'd love to have him on again, but that would be the biggest thing, if you can look at things that much bigger than yourself, it can give you a lot of power.
Yeah, and I think my takeaway is, it takes a village. That sometimes, we can't do it on our own. That we have to allow the mandates of others and to be a part and share in that mandate. That, when a Rick Macci comes into our lives or Tim Storey comes into our lives, that we have to appreciate that these opportunities, these options, these touches of favor are meant to be. And that if we don't take advantage of it, because look, it's a fine line. I saw the movie and you said the movie was accurate. Richard Williams could have went over to Nikki B in Newport Beach. And I am not sure that Nick B had a mandate to make Serena and Venus the best in the world and to change the sport. You changed the sport, and you changed a lot beyond the sport because you had a mandate not only to be your best, to bring the best out of both Serena and Venus, as well as others, by the way. So, my takeaway is to pay attention when these options, opportunities, and touches of favor, when others are mandated to help us, be receptive to the help, and also be willing to help. Rick Macci, you certainly always help me. It's an honor to have this show with you, Game Set Life, anything and everything. This is just a start. If you could have seen Rick Macci 30 years ago, this is where we're at today. We got another 30 years together. We're Buckeyes. We live a long time, and we grow big, strong oaks, man. We got a long runway. Everybody follow Rick Macci. Check out his content. It's getting better and better. I love the videos. Keep the inspiration coming, my friend. Thanks for joining me.
All right. When you get an emoji at 4 a.m, you'll know who it's from.
I always do, and I'm willing and able to accept it every time. Please keep them coming. I appreciate it.
All right, Dave. See you later.
See you later. All right, everyone. It's Game Set Life. We're here every Tuesday at noon. We're your lunchtime favorites on the Pacific Coast. We're an afternoon challenge for you on the East Coast. And if you're in Hawaii, when you wake up, you can check us out for breakfast. It's Game Set Life with David Meltzer and Rick Macci. Remember, be more interested than interesting. But most importantly, as Tim Storey will share with you, be kind to your future self. Do good deeds. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much.
There are times that I may slip up, won't always get it right. Guarantee I'll be on top when it's Game Set Life. Get up and show up, don't ever lose your fight. You watching me from the couch, at least I say I tried. A long time ago, someone said this stuck with me. Passion without action will only remain a dream. Keep positive, motivated people on your team, cause other negativity can kill your self-esteem. Believing is powerful, but sadly so is doubt. So you can choose which way you want to go, which route. The mind that controls the body can beat anybody, and gotta be all in, don't treat your dreams like a hobby. And if you practice on your day off, won't have an off day. Talent alone won't get you there, still got a long way. Gotta take big risks and big steps to strive. Wanna be the winner when it's Game Set Live.